world was young, the mountains green, no stain yet on the moon was seen.
Then with a crash came a great ringing shout. Ra, boom, ra.
3 rings for the elven kings under the sky, 7 for the dwarf lords in their halls of stone, 9 for mortal men doomed to die, 1 for the dark lord on his dark throne in the land of Mordor where the shadows lie. 1 ring to rule them all, 1 ring to find them, 1 ring to bring them all, and in the darkness bind them in the land of Mordor where the shadows lie.
Talking about Tolkien, Ben.
It sure is, Nate.
It's been like 6 weeks or something, but we're back.
It's been a minute.
It's
been a long minute. We're back. We're doing book 2 of Fellowship of the Ring. Chapter 1, Many Meetings.
And again, I still don't know why this is 2 books. What's up with that?
I don't fully know. I don't know why it's divided into 2 books. I don't, as far as I know, it was never sold as 2 books. So I guess that must just be Tolkien's way of thinking of it.
Yeah, I guess. Well, here we are. October 24th. Frodo's waking up. And who should be beside him, Ben? But Gandalf. I think this is probably a much bigger deal in the movie when you don't see Gandalf for that entire time and then he's just there. But we've known Gandalf has been out and about for a while now. We keep almost running into him. So
I don't know. Was it made explicit that it was Gandalf on Weathertop? Yeah, I guess it was because they find his rune.
Yeah.
I'd say there's a lot of things in this chapter that the movie tries to make a very big deal of, and I don't know. Looking back, I don't know if I like it. That's, I mean, the movie.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's
not gonna shock anyone. No, I don't know if I like some of the choices the movie made. There's one choice in specific that I really don't like, and then
Frodo being a little baby, little.
Well, yeah, I mean that's throughout. That's throughout, but
oh, okay.
No, there's making Bilbo a jump scare monster.
I was about to say that.
Yeah.
That was my guess.
Yeah, that's the one I'm talking about.
Yeah, because I was going to mention, like, yeah, in the book, like, obviously something happens, but like he doesn't. His eyes don't pop out, and he doesn't try to eat Frodo's face. You know, like.
Yeah, the movie also has another problem. Bilbo just kind of gets stomped on in the movie, and it is interesting to think like what would have like how much worse actually would it have been if they'd made The Hobbit first and had to like you get like all these vanity shots of Gloin showing up. It's a whole big deal, and then like Martin Freeman and like slight old age makeup is there.
Can we get someone other than Martin Freeman?
No.
Oh.
He's so good.
Okay. I'll take your word for that.
Yeah. But no, I think the movie now, because they made Lord of the Rings first, nobody knows who the hell Bilbo is. Nobody knows why he matters. Nobody knows what he did. And all they know is he had the ring for a while, and so he serves as like a super over the top demonstration of what the ring does to people, and that's it. That's his only role in the movie.
Yeah, as it should be, Ben.
I at least understand that. I at least understand why they had to do that, but I don't know. It's a shame because obviously Bilbo is a fairly important character.
Well, you know what they could have done that you would have hated even more, Ben, is just cut Bilbo out entirely.
I don't know. I don't know how you do that without rewriting the beginning.
They Tom Bombadil him.
Yeah. But like, how does like Frodo just?
Hey, I got this letter from Bilbo that he's out of here, bro. He wanted you to have this ring. Okay, bye.
I'm positive they had conversations about cutting Bilbo out entirely.
And Peter Jackson,
I don't know what that
I assume,
guy.
would have been against that.
Well, like I said, they use Bilbo to show the risk of having the ring, I guess.
Yeah. You need to know what will happen. You'll turn into a scary monster man. But they also do the same thing for Galadriel, so she also becomes kind of a scary monster.
There's so many things looking back on it that I'm just like, I can't really put myself in the mind of somebody who never read the books and watched the movies. I gotta imagine they were very confused.
I couldn't put myself there either, but the movies kind of took over. And I like retrospectively was like, oh, that's how it was written in the book. Frodo was just, he whined a lot. That checks out, probably.
Yeah, no, he doesn't. I mean, do you want to give like a quick summary of everything that happens, or do you want to like talk about it?
No,
Like,
you have to listen to all of our episodes. We need those views.
well, yeah, I mean, in the chapter.
Oh, yeah, no, in the chapter for sure. So Bilbo
Yeah.
wakes up, and Gandalf is there. And Gandalf says that Frodo's been talking in his sleep, and says something about like how like his Frodo's mind wouldn't be too hard to read. I assume that was like a turn of phrase, right? He's not actually reading minds, right?
I have no idea. I honestly thought about that as well. I've started underlining things in the book that I want to talk about, and that was one of the things I underlined. Where I can't imagine he got. I tell you, I don't know what I think is stranger: Gandalf being able to like magically read his mind, or Frodo giving an incredibly detailed account of everything that happened to him in his sleep talk.
Well, you
Because
clearly
Gandalf knows about what happened in the Barrow Downs.
this is some magic PTSD,
Did
okay?
Frodo like narrate like, and then I woke up, but everybody else was still asleep,
Yes.
and then
Yes.
I
Yes. Gandalf pulled out a tape recorder and was recording all this because he's like, he's going to want to hear this later when he writes his book back.
Yeah, that could be true because Frodo is thinking about writing a book, so maybe he's like,
Yeah,
memorizing.
and now his journey's at an end. He brought the ring to Rivendell. He's going to write a sick book about this adventure he's been on. And, mission accomplished.
Yeah, kind of the worst part is Rivendell is just like the best place in the world. Everybody's just having the most amazing time. Like you can finally sleep. Like all the trauma of the journey is gone. They got the best free medical care in Middle Earth.
God, can you imagine free medical care?
A feast every night. There's the Hall of Fire, which is awesome.
Yeah. And that's why his journey's at an end, Ben. This is it. This is the final chapter of the series. There's an epilogue after this where Frodo's like, and I never did hear what happened about that ring, but
I assume it all worked out.
Yeah, I assumed it all worked out. So, Gandalf mentions like, really sorry, wasn't there. I was kind of tied up. Yeah, it was kind of captured. Frodo's like, "Whoa, captured where?" And Gandalf's like, "That's a surprise for later."
Yeah, I did enjoy that because they're going to have a council meeting and they're going to talk about just how absolutely screwed they are and how everything is falling apart and how like all the plans they like every tiny amount of hope they had at like every possible turn, like every little thing they thought they had set up to help them, it's all just it's all bad. Nothing's working. But that's for next chapter. This chapter is the party chapter. So Gandalf's like, this is the party chapter. Look, you just woke up after a traumatic injury. You know, you took a shard of a Morgul blade to the chest.
Yeah, he calls them Morgul Lord. What is a Morgul?
I don't know. I think
okay.
It sounds elvish. I think it's
a Sindarin word meaning sorcery or black arts, according to Google AI, where I get all of my information from.
That makes sense, because I think Morgoth is black something. I don't speak Elvish.
Did he get the evil sounding name before or after he became evil?
Who, Morgoth?
Yeah. He had a different
After.
name.
After.
Before,
He was Melkor.
Yeah. Okay. He still had kind of a little bit of like...
No, his angelic name was Melkor, and then I believe Feanor is the first to call him Morgoth. I could be wrong. But after he steals the Silmarils and kills the two trees, then everybody's like, yeah, you're Morgoth now.
You're Morgoth. Dad doesn't understand me.
Honestly, that's
It's
why
not
I
a
was
phase.
confused. That's why I was confused, because I couldn't remember if Mor or Goth was the word that meant black. Because I thought it was Mor, but I was like, it should be Goth. But I don't think Tolkien thought of the Goths the same way I think of the Goths.
Now, Gandalf also mentioned something like the wraiths are risen again or something. Like, where were they before? He implies that they were like out of commission or asleep or something.
That's an interesting question. Again, you're touching on all the best stuff. I also have the same question. I don't think there is an answer to that, as far as I know. My guess, based on the lore, would be that they were weakened or possibly unable to take full form. And then Sauron's return strengthened them and gave them the ability to like ride forth and hold enough of a shape to wrap a cloak around.
Okay.
But it's really unclear. In the Hobbit movie, they take a really colorful interpretation of that phrase. And there was like some jail cell with 9 tombs in the side of a mountain that was shattered. And Gandalf finds it and he's like, oh no, the 9 ride again. And then he goes and he
Why were they
fights.
in there, Gandalf? Why wasn't anyone guarding that?
Because it didn't exist. It's 3 movies, man. What are we going to put in them? I mean, it would be a cool scene in any other fantasy, except like the Tolkien's secondary world is so meticulously planned and everything that you're like, well, what does that mean? And then there's Radagast has a line in the movie where he's like, no human sorcerer could blah, 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 blah. And I'm like,
wait, are there human sorcerers?
Not really. Kinda, maybe. Like,
sounds like, the wizards are not humans. They're angelic beings.
Tolkien in his letters does talk about how humans can't do magic. Like, they can't conjure things.
Well, what does Simon Tolkien think?
I don't know if that's a real Tolkien. Is that one of them?
That's one of his grandsons.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if it's the right one, but...
If that's the one that consulted on the movies? I don't know. I don't know if he consulted on The Hobbit, by the way, because that one kind of...
We want nothing to do with this except for the prophets.
He mentions that, like, humans can't properly do magic, but also that the blue wizards might have gone off to the east to teach cults of magic. I don't think
like that fake bullshit magic. Like, watch as I put this powder in this water and ooh, now it tastes like strawberry and it's red.
It honestly could be something like that. Like, it could have been some kind of like lie or charlatanism or...
Ooh, and this one is grape flavored.
Well, let's not get too lost on this point.
So, then Frodo is just being a big old racist towards big people. Fuck you, Frodo. Oh, I always thought big people were either big, dumb, fucking idiots and kind, or like conniving assholes. And there's no in between at all. And Gandalf is like, bro, what the fuck? and he sticks up for the innkeeper who delivered that letter a few months too late.
Kind of sticks up for the innkeeper. It's a mixed compliment at the very least.
Well, I just remember, like, I don't remember a lot of this because they mentioned, like, they talk about the ancient race of kings over the sea. I'm like, wow, they actually dropped a lot of those things. I never picked up on it when I read the first time. And then Ben,
they talk about the Numenorians.
Why can't we breed more Numenorians? How much Numenorian blood do you need to be Numenorian?
A lot more than we got. And also, I think...
Can we interbreed them with some elves, maybe, and get some, like, part elf, part Numenorian, so that they live a little longer, they've got that disease resistance, like... Let's get out the genealogy chart, and let's start figuring out how we're going to make some superhumans.
Yeah, I don't think that's what Tolkien had in mind. Also...
But Tolkien famously was like, the Bene Gesserit, 10 out of 10.
Tough to say. So I think the Numenorians, I'm trying to remember. So I've actually been reading a lot of different versions of First Age stories and Second Age stories because I've been going back through like the history of Middle Earth, all the early drafts and stuff. I think the Numenorians had long lives, but I think especially the Numenorian line of kings had long lives.
Yeah,
and
of course they did.
I think it's arguable whether it's biological or spiritual.
That's why this country is in the shape it's in, Ben, because we don't have a monarchy that has the blood of kings from over the sea.
I mean, look. If the Valar want to send us someone,
if you can
I'm
do
open.
Us a solid.
I'm open to suggestion. But unclear to me whether it's spiritual or biological. They talk a lot about like the blood of Numenor grows thin or whatever, the blood of Numenor, blah blah blah. But like, I don't know if it's actually like, I don't know if Tolkien wants you to take it that literally, that like genetically these people have superior health. I think it is a spiritual, magical reward bestowed on them by the Valar, and kind of from the time of the fall of Numenor, it's been going down. And I think it's because, like, you know, once you turned around and tried to kill us, we didn't work super hard on maintaining that blessing.
And we almost had you in the first half, you know? We could have totally made it happen if we just sent all of our guys.
If you hadn't ran and told your dad, we probably could have taken you.
Yeah. 1v1 me, noob.
1v1 me, Manway.
So then Gandalf mentions what had happened, where Elrond flooded the river, and then Strider and a goddamn elf lord revealed charged down with firebrands to scare the horses in. Apparently he's like a being of white light or some shit.
Yeah, do you want to talk about... So I guess we could talk about this as we go through, because this whole thing is just a lore dump.
Yeah, it is.
So there's actually something Gandalf says a little bit...
Look at you with your fucking movie version of the book.
Oh, yeah.
Got Elijah Wood right on the cover.
It's the one I feel comfortable writing in. So... before he mentions the white figure, Frodo asks him about the Black Riders, like what are they? And he's talking about how they're wraiths, and then Frodo asks why the
cloaks on them so you can actually see their form.
Yeah,
and like, Frodo,
and the horses are also actual horses; they're not demon horses. And Frodo asks why the horses tolerate them, and when all the other animals he's seen flee from these guys. And Gandalf says that the the Dark Lord of Mordor raises many different kinds of servants, including those horses, orcs, trolls, and there are plenty of men who follow him. And Frodo asks, "What about Rivendell and the elves? Is Rivendell safe? Could the elves
It'll
have?"
be the last to fall.
Gandalf says, and I'm going to read this just because this is important. Yes, at present, until all else is conquered, the elves may fear the Dark Lord and they may fly before him, but never again will they listen to him or serve him. And here in Rivendell there live some of his chief foes, the Elvenwise, lords of the Eldar from beyond the furthest seas. They do not fear the ring-wraiths, for those who have dwelt in the blessed realm live at once in both worlds. And against both the seen and the unseen, they have great power.
Yeah. So they can fight ring wraiths here, is what it sounds like.
They can see their true forms. They can see into the unseen world, the spiritual world. So
if Frodo put on the ring, they would still be able to see him.
Yeah, quite possibly.
Is this also what Tom Bombadil was doing? Because he also just was like, "What are you doing? Take that ring off your finger."
Quite possibly, though I don't believe for the same reasons. Like, Gandalf is saying that the elves who have been to Valinor and then so the elves that made the journey all the way to Valinor.
The good elves is what you're saying. The elves that are cool and don't imprison you for no reason.
Well, the elves that are cool didn't come back.
Well, these are the silver metal elves. Yeah.
These are that's the best way to describe the Noldor. These are the elves that made the journey to Valinor. They lived in the Blessed Land. They ate the food. They talked with the gods. Some of them saw the light of the two trees, and then they came back. And now they carry some of that blessing with them. And that's something that I believe is also in the Silmarillion. It's at least in early versions of the Feanor story that when they first come back from Valinor into Middle Earth, they're tougher. They're harder to kill. They don't succumb to starvation or misery very easily. They're filled with the light of the Blessed Realm.
What if Sauron came to them with some gifts? What if he's like, "Hey, I can teach you how to make some really cool necklaces or something."
Well, as George Bush once famously said, "You fool me once, I can't get fooled again."
Ah, man, I never thought I would yearn for the day.
Glorfindel is one of those elves who has seen the Blessed Realm is filled with its holy light. That adds to his strength. That gives him the ability to see the unseen. He's essentially almost saint-like. He's been in the presence of divinity, and he carries some of that blessing. And then Frodo asks, "So I saw a white figure that shone and did not grow dim like the others. Was that Glorfindel?"
Nah, man, that was Sam.
Yeah, that was Sam. Yeah, he had the light of the garden in him. No, but that was indeed Glorfindel. Now, in the movies, that's Arwen.
Yeah.
Which undoes the whole reason Glorfindel was glowing, because Arwen has not been to Valinor.
Ooh. Ouch.
So, she was born in Middle-earth.
Well, whoopsie.
So
that's okay. Glorfindel doesn't even exist in the movies, I don't think. So we just kind of merge him and Arwen. They do the fusion dance.
Him, Arwen, Frodo, a couple of the characters, whatever we got.
Whatever we need,
That's another thing I wonder when people read or when people watch the movie and they see Arwen show up as this bright white figure and she's dressed in a white dress, even though she was wearing armor and riding clothes before. And she's like,
"Dresses are divine, armor
whatever grace I have, let it pass into him." What the hell was she doing, do you think?
She was draining some of her life force into Frodo.
I think that's the conclusion you would come to.
It's like a blood transfusion, but like spiritual, Ben. Like you said, it's not the blood of Numenor. It's like
No,
the
you're
spirit of
right.
Numenor. So, like, same thing for the elves. She hooked him up with a spirit IV and got him a little transfusion.
Yeah, that could well be. So that's Gandalf explaining the whole thing with like, this is why we can trust the elves. And he's referencing a bunch of stuff there. Is like, the Noldor, they've been fighting Dark Lords for as long as there's been Dark Lords. And the elves got tricked by Sauron once, and they're not falling for it again. There is not a single elf
can't fool me. You can't fool me again.
And so they're talking a little bit more about the event at the Bruinen, and Gandalf said that Frodo was turning into a wraith, and as soon as he got stabbed with that Morgul blade, the riders. This is another tricky thing we were talking about in earlier episodes. The riders made straight for you as soon as you had fled.
Did they?
They did not need the guidance of their horses any longer. You had become visible to them, being already on the threshold of their world. And also the ring drew them.
And also they may have waited just a little bit. They could have sworn like any day now you were going to turn, and you just didn't. So
they Glorfindel knew that the river could do that trick. So he knew that Elrond was ready, because of course in the books it is Elrond, not Arwen.
I keep forgetting that she did that. Yeah. You're right. She does like an incantation. She's like saying shit under her breath, and then
she says something in Elvish. If you turn the subtitles on, you can see what she says.
It's probably old Tom Bombadil. Bombadillo.
Something about calling the waters to rise or something.
Nah, I like mine better, but okay.
Next chapter, we'll hear Tom Bombadil's Elvish name. But
Bombadil.
Yeah. So what happened in the books with the river is that Elrond causes it to flood, and Gandalf adds a flourish of magic where he makes it look like there's a bunch of horses and riders charging.
Yeah, and then Strider and Glorfindel charge him from behind and scare the horses into the river, because the horses aren't demon horses. They're normal horses. They're like, oh my god, those guys have fire sticks. Let's run into the river.
Glorfindel knew that they were going to do the river trick, so he had them start a big fire, and they got a bunch of fiery brands ready to fight the riders that made it out of the flood. Here's an interesting thing for our Discord, because we've been having the who's stronger, Glorfindel or Gandalf. Gandalf fought all 9 riders at Weathertop. The riders were too swift to overtake and too many to oppose. On foot, even Glorfindel and Aragorn together could not withstand all 9 at once.
But who's saying that?
Gandalf.
Yeah.
Touche. Okay.
Yeah, I'm just saying, on foot, Glorfindel, he couldn't have taken them all, Frodo. Like, let's just be real clear. Like, could take all of them, but like Glorfindel, 7 at most. You know what I'm saying?
Yup.
No, we have to sell this the old-fashioned way, Frodo. An epic rap battle.
Remember that? Remember when that was a thing?
I think it still exists, but I just think no one talks about it anymore.
Making new videos.
I'm sure they are.
Oh man.
2 months ago, Donald Trump versus Kamala Harris, epic rap battles of history, man.
Wow. Okay. Is that bacon guy still going? That fucking beardy boy, epic mealtime?
No, that guy, he definitely, like, he had like a final episode or whatever, and
At least somebody knows when to quit.
You know who's not eating an absurd amount of bacon? Frodo, Ben.
Not yet.
Not yet. So
he keeps asking. He's like, "Oh man, it's so great to be here in Rivendell, man. I just wish Bilbo was here to see this."
He's like, "All right, I'm gonna go to sleep now." Gosh, though, I miss Bilbo so much. Such a shame that I'll probably never see him again. I'm just, I guess I'll just go to sleep now and be sad. Sam runs in and strokes his left hand and then blushes and turns away. And then I had a thing about what would James Somerton say about Sam and Frodo's relationship.
I actually have that highlighted. I want to read it just because people keep like, I'm kind of on team like there's a little bit of homosexual undertone to the Sam and Frodo relationship. And people are like, no, it's just male affection. Don't make it weird. But I'm gonna read this one for you.
It's extreme male affection, Ben. Positive masculinity.
He ran to Frodo and took his left hand, awkwardly and shyly. He stroked it gently, and then he blushed and turned hastily away. Hello, Sam, said Frodo. It's warm, said Sam. Meaning your hand, Mr. Frodo. It felt so cold through the long nights. But, and I have this highlighted, glory in trumpets, he cried, turning around. It's fine to see you up in yourself again, sir. I don't like... a lot of people have asked, like, why does Sam keep making all these, like he says, Lord bless me, glory in trumpets. It's like, Sam, have you been attending, like, a youth group I don't know about? Where are you getting all this Christian imagery? But I guess he's just meant to have said something like that in the original language that Tolkien is translating from.
Yeah.
The Hobbit equivalent of that folksy kind of talk. But yeah, no, that's like, I don't know. There's male affection. There's malefaction. I don't know.
And then Pippin calls Frodo the Lord of the Ring, and Gandalf is like, don't you fucking ever say that again, Pippin. I will slap the taste out of your goddamn mouth if you even think about that, okay? Pippin,
and then this is a direct quote. Gandalf has been saying many cheerful things like that. He thinks I need keeping in order.
Yeah. You dumb little idiot.
Do you like to... I like to imagine, like, after the whole adventure's done, they're, sitting at, like, Aragorn's, like, official, like, tour of the North. Gandalf just slaps him. Just slaps Pippin. Or, like, they're getting on the ships and they're saying goodbye. Gandalf he hugs every hobbit and then punches Pippin in the face.
Just one. Just one. That's all you need, but it gets the message across.
Yep.
You had that coming, Pippin, and you're better for it.
Yep. No, I think even Pippin would be like, yeah, I deserve that.
Yeah, you know what?
For a lot of things.
Yeah. You know what? Yeah. Fair.
Respect. Male affection.
Game recognizes game.
So then it's feasting time.
Feast time. Everyone's invited, including a really hot elf that's related to Elrond.
Do you like the compliment Tolkien attempts to pay her?
That she looks like Luthien come again?
Well, he does say that, and that is a genuine
even starve her people?
Yeah, that's a genuine compliment, but no, so I'm picturing
that broad cheese. I don't know. I'm just
like, you know how Elrond is described in the book as being like this kind of ageless, super attractive, heroic,
not at
elf
all
man.
What we got in the
not
in the
Agent Smith.
Agent Smith is exactly what I think of.
So the problem is
Mr. Baggins.
Mr. Baggins. Okay, so if hang on, let me find it. Okay, so picture in my head, unfortunately now I have Agent Smith, even though that's not at all how Elrond is described. In the middle of the table, against woven cloths upon the wall, there was a chair under a canopy, and there sat a lady fair to look upon. And so like was she in form of womanhood to Elrond, that Frodo guessed they were close kindred. I'm just picturing him. I wanted to say in a wig, but he was in a wig. So I think I'm just picturing him. I'm just picturing him sitting next to him. But yes, then he goes on to say that she was Arwen, the daughter of Elrond, in whom it was said that the likeness of Luthien had come again.
Hook up with a mortal.
That explains why Aragorn was complimenting Luthien, calling her the most beautiful woman to have ever or will ever exist. And that's a weird thing to say if you're pseudo engaged, but now we know it's a backdoor compliment to his fiance. It's a backdoor brag.
And then
but Aragorn's not there.
Yeah,
you get no indication yet.
She was in Lorien, apparently.
Yes, with her mother's kin, Lothlorien. Elrond is married to Galadriel's
yeah, I think
daughter.
you mentioned that before, and I'm still like, wait, really?
Yeah. yeah. Galadriel is Arwen's grandmother.
So the hobbits are at the kids' table.
They have a place of honor.
Small table in the corner that's smaller than
relative honor.
All the table and chairs are like plastic, so they don't accidentally hurt themselves. And
okay, Sam asked to be a waiter.
I had that as a note too. Sam wanted to wait on Frodo. Okay.
Sam asked to be a waiter, and Elrond was like, "No, you're a guest. Sit at the table." You weird little man. The dais has to be reserved for like heads of state, Sam. You're not a head of state. You're the head of state's. You're going to be his best friend, but like right now that's Mary. So like you're the head of state's gardener, which is still pretty cool. And you should be proud of that. So go sit at this table. It's right over there. You can see him. You can see him the whole time. Dressed all in white. Can you picture Gloin dressed all in white?
But
that was the strangest thing.
Well, I keep forgetting how much time passed between the books because they're talking about Grimbjorn. The master of the land between the mountain and Mirkwood.
And what is it? Oh god, I know it's Bard's grandson, but I forget.
Brand. He's the grandson of Bard. Dane is still king under the mountain. Bomber is fat as fuck. So he needs 6 dwarves to get his fat ass out of a chair. And it's like, oh my god.
I know.
Jesus. Stop kicking Bomber.
I know you don't listen to anything you don't have to, nor do you read anything you don't have to. But John Bierce and I talked a little bit about this. You know how there was the prologue, and the prologue had like 4 sections, and one of them was like updating you on the dwarves, concerning hobbits, blah, blah, blah. Well, one of the things John and I talked about was when there was the American, we'll call it bootleg publication, the unauthorized publication of Lord of the Rings. Eventually, there was an authorized publication, but technically the American publication was not illegal. The Lord of the Rings copyright work had been done improperly. It created a loophole, and they were able to exploit it. So when they eventually came over, John was speculating that they added the prologue, like they add introductions to new editions of books, to like renew a copyright on that edition. But this is where the original reader would have heard for the first time just how fat
Bomber has become. Well, it wasn't enough that we just constantly talked about how huge he was last time. Now he's so fat, he needs 6 other dwarves to get his big fat ass out of his chair. Jesus Christ.
Fat shaming was funnier.
It must have been. Yeah.
You know, it's just there wasn't as many fat people. You had to work a lot harder to be fat back then.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Especially in England, I imagine. I imagine if you were fat in England around this time, you'd probably be punched. Where were you getting all that food? Why did you have so much of it? I had to wait in a bread line for hours during the war. Where was all of it? Sir?
You know, you're actually probably making a good point. That's probably not an inaccurate way of thinking about it. I've heard that's a thing in Japan where if you're a plus size person, you are considered inconveniencing the people around you, especially if you are in a densely packed train.
Well, you have to fucking work hard, dude. I walked at least 15,000 steps a day.
I have heard that too, is that Japanese people, they did like a step study and Japanese people were like 5,000 steps on average more than Americans or something.
Yeah, I was coming to the hotel like physically a little tired. Not like much, but like I slept real well. I was like, oh, this is nice. It's a nice change of pace.
And you carried those lifestyle changes home with you?
Sure. Hey, it's not my fault that my society relies so heavily on a car. You put an awesome subway beneath my city, which you never will because not enough people here anyway to justify it, you know. But yeah, I'd use that shit all the time.
I bought a bicycle. And then everybody started getting electric bikes. And now I'm mad.
I don't get the point of that. You either ride a bike or you ride a car. Like, let's not.
Well, the electric bike is nice if you really do want to like commuter bike, because it's cheap. It's hella cheap.
My employees have offered to.
Oh, you don't know how to. I keep forgetting you don't know how to ride a bike.
Yeah. I've got a few years before I have to pass that knowledge on to my daughter.
It's not hard. You just do it until you do it. Just get on a bike until it works.
Yeah, but what if I fall?
You probably are going to fall.
Oh, and I don't want to fall, Ben.
You'll be fine.
I have old man bones now, Ben.
Well, they're not getting any younger. You better start now. No, it's not that hard.
So,
but we're not here to talk about.
Yeah, instead we're talking about Balin, Ori, and Oin. They're all missing, and I'm sure they're fine.
He doesn't say that. So Gloin, the first thing he asks is like, so what brings you to Rivendell? I guess you're probably not allowed to say, since neither Gandalf nor Elrond nor anyone will tell me.
Oh.
And then
I'm glad you pointed that out, because I was about to tell you, but now I don't have to, and I won't feel bad about it.
And Frodo's like, no, I think we're supposed to wait for that council tomorrow. There's a lot of surprise news I hear coming at the council tomorrow. They really want maximum impact. They really want to see all of our faces when we hear it. So what's up with Balin? And Gloin's like, I think we're going to wait for the council on that one.
Yeah, I have in my notes that he does say that.
Yeah. He started a thing, and it is ongoing.
So they also go to the Hall of Fire after all this feasting. And who should be there, Ben? But Bilbo! My favoriteest person in the entire world, who I keep talking about, how I'll never see him again. He's here. So Bilbo, apparently, he went all the way back to Dale, like he did back in the day. And then he came all the way back here after spending some time out there. And Bilbo, he's still looking... Well, he's a little older, but, he's still pretty young looking.
They don't comment on his appearance having changed at all.
Oh, okay. There you go. And, it says, time does not seem to pass here. There you go.
I'll save that for after, but I have some thoughts on that.
And then Bilbo is like, can I just look at the ring real quick? And Frodo's like, yeah, sure. What a great idea. It was a solid idea. Like when a crack addict just wants to look at the crack, just, he takes it out. And then Frodo describes it as like, for a brief moment, like a shade goes across his face or something. Like he just looks unpleasant, and he has the strong urge to punch Bilbo in the face.
To his distress and amazement, he found that he was no longer looking at Bilbo. A shadow seemed to have fallen between them, and through it he found himself eyeing a little, wrinkled creature with a hungry face and bony, groping hands. He felt a desire to strike him.
And then Bilbo's eyes bugged out, and he started going, "Ah, my precious!" Ah! I'm looking at his fucking face right now.
It's pretty bad.
Ah!
So actually, what Bilbo does in the book, Bilbo looked quickly at Frodo's face and passed his hand across his eyes. "I understand now," he said. "Put it away. I am sorry. Sorry for you to have come in for this burden. Sorry about everything. Don't adventures ever have an end? I suppose not. Someone else always has to carry on the story. Well, it can't be helped. I wonder if it's any good trying to finish my book. But don't let's worry about it now. Let's have some real news. Tell me all about the Shire." So not only did they make Frodo a little crying baby in the movie, they also made Bilbo a little crying baby, because you know what happens after Bilbo turns into the jump scare
He cries
monster?
and he's like, "I'm so sorry. I'm so
I
sorry."
shouldn't have coached. No, Bilbo's a boss in this. They're in public. Male affection.
And what happens after that is 3.5 pages of songs, Ben.
I think it's just the one song. I think it's just Bilbo's song.
It's 3.5 pages, Ben.
Okay, but here's what you don't know. Here's what you're underselling, okay? So in the book, or in the movie, Bilbo and Aragorn have like never met. They never talk. In the book, they hang out all the time. And Bilbo and Aragorn, like, not only, like, Aragorn comes up and he's like, "Oh yeah, I had this meeting. Elrond's sons came back. They had news from the wilderness. I needed to hear it immediately. Like, military matters. And Bilbo's like, yeah, yada, yada, yada. Bro, we got to perform tonight. Elrond just gave me the thing. We're on stage in like 20 minutes. You got to help me finish this song." And Aragorn is like, "Shit, why didn't you tell me? What am I doing? Let's go. We got to go finish this song. Frodo, take care of yourself, buddy." And then he and Aragorn head off, and they come up with this song, which is a highly poetic version of the tale of Arendelle, which Arendelle is the guy who goes and gets the Valinor or the Valar to come back and beat up Morgoth. He's also the star with the light of the Silmaril. It's actually a really big deal. I assume if you have not read the Silmarillion, though, this doesn't mean a lot to you.
That's why you're supposed to read it first, Ben.
Yeah. It's an interesting one.
Salt in that wound.
It's an interesting one, and there's an interesting little line. So at the end, so they're trying to they're having the elves guess which parts Aragorn came up with and which parts Bilbo came up with, and the little joke is
They
that
can't tell the difference because we're
they can't
all
tell
just
the
mortals to them, and sheep don't look all that different from other sheep. Fuck you guys. Why don't you just sail west, you fucking cowards? Age of Man, it's coming for ya.
Bilbo says, "As a matter of fact, it was all mine, except that Aragorn insisted on my putting in a green stone. He seemed to think that was important. I don't know why." Aragorn is a descendant of Arendelle, and that stone is one of his symbols of office. Aragorn has that green stone with him. That's why Aragorn thought it was important to put in. Arendelle, if you it is one of the great stories of the First Age. It is one of the older stories of Tolkien's. Like he's been workshopping it for a pretty long time. It was like one of the original mythologies. Arendelle is, I don't want to get too much into it, but like I said, he is instrumental in getting the Valar's help to finally come and overthrow Morgoth and to cast Morgoth out into the void, which basically frees Middle Earth from tyranny and slavery and just a eternal dark age. And it's a really big deal. It's the end of the first age, the beginning of the second age. And Aragorn actually says something to Bilbo that I thought was funny, which was, look, Bilbo, I can only help you so much. If you think it's a good idea to come into the House of Elrond and make a song about Arendelle, then we're just going to have to do our best. But this is kind of like, me going to Japan and telling them about Amaterasu or something.
Yeah, that's the thing that Sasuke used to burn through the walls. Big old hot fire from his eyes.
Yeah, I believe she's like the sun goddess or something. But that's kind of my point. Is like I don't really know what the deal is there. I have a vague idea, but like I could probably tell you all about it. I have a podcast, so it was kind of funny that Bilbo is like, presumably everything he knows about Arendelle he learned either directly from the elves or from reading the books that they wrote that are in the libraries of Rivendell. So who is he to tell people who, like, he learned everything from them? Who is he to try to add to their stuff? And even Bilbo is like, they don't like my poetry here, but I did Elrond a favor once, so I live for free. And he does talk about how like time seems to pass in this place, and then they go back to Bilbo's like, hey, tell you what, let's get out of here. Let's go find a quiet place to talk. And Frodo's like, oh my God, are we allowed to? And Bilbo's like, it's a fucking party. What are you doing, nerd? Yeah, you can do whatever you want.
That's what he called him too. He called him a fucking nerd.
No. So they get out of there. They go back to Bilbo's room and they talk all through the night. And eventually Sam shows up and he's like, oh, hey, Mr. Bilbo, I was just wondering if maybe Frodo were getting a little tired there. Because Gandalf said he has to go to bed. We got a council in the morning, and you're going to want to be awake for this one. You're going to want to be awake to hear how screwed we all are.
We're going to drop a lot of bombshells on you.
You're going to want to be glad you got up early for this. And that's the end of the chapter. I don't have we kind of discussed all the important lore bits as we went through. I don't have a ton to add. The one interesting thing I did notice was the Hall of Fire. The Hall of Fire, Gandalf describes as being a room where there is an eternally burning fire, but the room is only used for like storytelling and events. Like the elves gather around it and they tell stories and poetry and do music and stuff. Tolkien had an early concept for creating a book out of the tales of the First Age that he was coming up with. And that is the Book of Lost Tales. That is part of the history of Middle Earth. Christopher Tolkien took all the notes and tried to compile them into a somewhat readable version that he commented on and explained like how stuff had evolved over time. It's early stuff. It is rough. A lot of the stories are in a draft version where a lot of the details differ from what would come to be in the Silmarillion. But one of the interesting things is in the framing device, the story is about a human who sails west and eventually finds one of the islands where there are still elves. and the elves take him in. He goes to this place called the Cottage of Lost Play, and there he like learns the elf language, and he starts attending these nightly tale tellings in a room that is very much like the Hall of Fire. And that's supposed to be the framing device for how all these lost tales come to be told. They're told to this human in this place. I thought that was neat that he recycled that idea, because eventually he was thinking about doing the Lost Tales for quite some time, and winds up throwing it out entirely. He was on the verge of doing a complete rewrite, and then he chucked it in favor of the Silmarillion method of presenting them. And of course, getting the publishing deal for The Hobbit and then Lord of the Rings would change everything again. The early Silmarillion also kind of gets thrown out. But there are a few stories from the First Age that pretty much stay throughout every iteration of the Middle Earth mythos, and they are the Beren and Luthien, the Music of the Ainur, the Children of Húrin, and the Fall of Gondolin. Those are always kind of floating around. If you're curious, we'll get more into that as more of it becomes relevant. But Glorfindel is in the Fall of Gondolin. He is in every iteration of the Fall of Gondolin, I think. Though what he does sort of changes. Like in one of the early versions, there's like hundreds of Balrogs, and they're getting dropped right and left. So it's not a big deal, but
yeah, no big deal. How hard could they be to kill, you know?
One guy headbutts one to death.
Yeah, I saw that.
So that's something interesting, just how many little pieces of this dude's life's work. It's very interesting to see somebody who had like all these like original characters from his previous stories that he rolls into the one that finally gets published. It's something I see a lot of authors and artists and people do in a modern day, and I always think of Tolkien as just being like, I don't know, above that. I don't know why I associate that with like, I don't know. I guess it's something I do. That's why I'm like, huh. Tolkien recycles old characters too. I love that.
Yeah, so we're just like Tolkien, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
That's the moral of this lesson. We are also just like Tolkien.
Well, we're certainly talking about him.
Yeah.
Bam. Full circle. Well, Nate, anything else? Any other questions? Anything you want to know about that chapter?
No, because the lore dump is coming up. Like the bigger lore dump. The larger of the two.
Yeah, the one other thing I would say different from the movies, and an important difference, is, and we'll get into this more in the next chapter, but this is not a council that Elrond has summoned. This is just a bunch of people happen to be here all at the same time, and Elrond's like, there are some things you should probably know.
Yep.
And each one of them happens to have different bad news.
And as we know, that is bad writing to just have a bunch of coincidences, Ben. It's not even realistic.
Well, they're not
0 out of 10.
I would say that if they were just a bunch of coincidences, but they're not. It's to demonstrate how far-reaching Sauron's plans and powers are. He's starting to move everywhere all at once. That's a big deal. He's an important guy. He's not just an eyeball floating in a tower.
So, yeah. He could be, though. Have you ever thought that maybe he is just an eyeball in a tower, Ben?
I'll give the movies this. They had a real hard time trying to communicate what any of this stuff was without just telling you, which is what the book can do. But we'll see. This is where the movie differs a lot in tone where I would say, like, Christopher Tolkien famously said that he thought they just reduced the great story to a stupid action movie. And some of this stuff is where I start to see his point, because there's a lot of mythological meaning to what goes on in these chapters that the movie just totally ignores in favor of Aragorn having self-doubt and being a reluctant king, which is more in line with what a modern action movie would want. It's good.
Yeah,
People like it.
I have a quote, or I think it was a quote. I have a note from next chapter where they're like, "Yeah, well, you're Isildur's heir, not Isildur himself." And in the movie, that's a good thing. You're not Isildur. In the book, it's, man, I really wish you were Isildur.
Yeah, we could really use Isildur
that
right
would
now.
be really great right about now. He was awesome.
He killed Sauron. You remember that?
Yeah. We could really use a guy who could kill Sauron right about now.
Yeah. He walked up to Sauron and got his ass kicked around a little bit, but then sucker punched his finger off. And I'll be honest, even that would help right now.
Actually, that is a question. So Sauron's not just an eyeball right now. He has a physical form. Could that form be dealt mortal damage?
Yeah, but he'd come back.
Yeah, I mean, I assume he'd be able to come back as long as the ring existed, but, like, how long would it take him to come back? Like, let's say I hurled a spear through his brain, and how long would it take him to, like, reform and come get me?
Probably in 1,000 years or so.
Oh, okay.
I mean, probably a long time, long enough for you to never think about it again.
Yeah. Age of man.
But his spirit would still be in the world that whole time, and his spirit is also kind of capable of causing a lot of stuff.
How do you put a ring on a spirit?
Well, you don't put a ring on a spirit, but he's connected to the ring, so as long as it's somewhere, he's good.
Yeah, but how could, like, because if he gets the ring, he'll put it on his physical form and gain all of his power, right? What if he doesn't have a physical form to put that ring on? Does he just have to wait till he rebuilds his body in order to?
Probably. That's probably the fatal flaw of both Sauron and Morgoth's plan, is they have poured so much of their spirit into the physical stuff of Arda that they kind of need to be physical to exercise
so that'll be
power.
plan B. Plan B is we stab Sauron. We just need to get an Isildur, and we could take him.
Well, it took, the reason they can't do that basically is in the Second Age, it took an alliance of some of the greatest heroes of both elves and men to destroy Sauron, and men have weakened and the elves are largely gone. And so we don't have a Numenor filled with supermen to come help us. We don't have an army of elven heroes. We would Sauron, if we meet Sauron in the field, he doesn't even have to come out. So we're kind of stuck. When in the Second Age, they made Sauron come out to the field and fight himself because they were able to pretty much take care of the orcs. But this time, we don't even have that.
We'll talk about that next time, Ben.
Yep. Yeah, it's a long story. All right.
Fucking long chapter.
It's going to be a long episode.
All right.
Council of Elrond. See you next time.
Bye.
The road goes ever on and on, down from the door where it began. Now far ahead the road is gone, and I must follow it, if I can, pursuing it with eager feet until it joins some larger way, where many paths and errands meet. And whither then, I cannot say.